Hello everyone, my name's Joanne and I'll be your host for tonight. I hope that everyone's doing well and is following the orders from the government. So make sure to wash your hands and maintain social distancing. If you have any questions to ask throughout the program, please type them in the Q&A box below. Questions will be answered after the interview with our speaker. There will also be a polling and it will be kind enough for you guys to give us some feedbacks. For YouTube viewers, please make sure to like and subscribe Jesselton Philharmonic Orchestra media channel. Now, JPO are very honored to be able to invite Raymond Kong as our special guest for tonight. Raymond Kong is a clarinetist who performed with several orchestras throughout the years and is currently the principal clarinet with the National Symphonic Orchestra in Istana Budaya. He's also the founder member of the Clarion Clarinet Quartet. As a composer, he has composed and arranged a great number of scores for the National Symphonic Orchestra, the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra, Kuala Lumpur Symphonic Orchestra, KL-PAG Sinfonietta, Camerata Kuala Lumpur, and many other ensembles. He's an active involvement with musicals and operas, beginning with Selangor Philharmonic Society's Guys and Dolls from high school days and many more. Not only that, but he arranged and orchestrated the scores for musicals and operas such as Stand of and Deliver, The Reluctant Saint, Tunku the Musical, and Adam the Musical. He's currently in the midst of orchestrating a new musical. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Raymond Kong. Hello, Raymond.
Hi, Joanne.
How are you this evening?
Great, wonderful. How are you?
Oh, great as well.
Yeah,
so
stay safe.
So how are you and your family handling this MCO and all?
Wow. Everybody go our own interesting ways. You know, my wife suddenly took up vegetable gardening.
Oh, it's a great way.
Yeah. For me, I think, playing with my son. My son plays the guitar, so we have some jam session, and not on the clarinet though. I have a saxophone, and I have a few jam sessions with him on the saxophone. That was fun.
So you play multiple instruments?
The saxophone, not so much. Actually, I played years ago. Recently I dusted it out because the MCO is really getting boring. So dusted it out and have some fun with it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So shall we get on with the questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So first question is, what brings you to the road of becoming a musician and an educator?
Wow, my musical journey actually started quite late in life. It started in my teens, I think around 14 or 15. Mm-hmm. It all started when I actually attended a concert. I think it was the Lancashire School Symphony Orchestra. They came to KL and I went and watched the concert. When they played, the first note they played, actually, it made my, it gave me goose pimple, made my hair stand, and I decided, right, that's what I want to do. then.
I see.
Yeah. So yeah, when but back in those days, you don't have many instrumental teachers. So I basically taught myself music from books. Yeah, I begged, I stole and borrowed many books.
So
Yeah.
Why did you choose the clarinet?
Uh, Actually, it's more like the clarinet chose me. Let me explain.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, you know, I didn't know much about music back then. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just starting off, and I asked a friend of mine who actually played in a youth orchestra at that time. What instrument can I play? I told him, I'm quite interested in the saxophone, and he told me the symphony orchestra don't have a saxophone.
Uh-huh.
Oops, that's out of the question. So I said, well, the next best thing then, the clarinet. That's what I have access to. There's a school band in my school, and that was what I have access to. So in a way, that was what I could get hold of, and that's how I started. Yeah,
Yeah,
with
I
the
see.
clarinet. Yeah.
So you're also a composer. So what
Yes.
different genre of music have you composed?
Um, Actually, I have written in many genres. Of course, I'm more classically trained as a composer
Mm-hmm.
and arranger and an orchestrator. So I have written a lot of, when I was younger, I have written a lot of classical pastiche and stuff. I have also dabbled in some avant-garde music. All modern
Ah,
composers like to do that once in a while. Experiment a bit. And and I also did a lot of orchestrating and arrangement of pop music, a little bit of rock, a little bit of jazz, musicals, operas. I even there was a point when I even did some, when they use some music for some corporate videos.
ah,
Yeah. But I
that's
think
nice.
out of all the genre, my favorite is musical because it's fun, it's light,
Mm-hmm.
not as serious as opera, but it also has enough drama to keep you on your toes as a
Ah.
writer, arranger, and orchestrator.
So what would you consider to be the most challenging aspect of composing music?
Yeah. I think the most challenging aspect of writing music, a lot of people say it's finding the ideas, but actually that for me is not true. Ideas will come sooner or later if you keep on working at it. I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, the most challenging aspect of writing music would be, you know, for me, I like to write for, well, everybody would love to write to make a living, to make some money, right?
Ah,
So in my case, I like to write if there's a commission. I still write stuff for myself, but I like to write when there's a commission. So for me, the most challenging aspect will be fulfilling your clients' wants and needs. You know, um, as a writer, composer, or arranger, or orchestrator, you want to write what you want to write, but
true, true.
you need, you see, but sometimes what you want to write is not what your client wants. So that is quite challenging. You have to find your own voice in what the need is for that moment. Yeah, I find that challenging, balancing that. Yeah,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
So how was the Clarion Clarinet Quartet founded?
Okay, it's basically a group of friends back in the 1990s.
Wow.
Yes, the Clarion Quartet is that old, around mid
Okay.
1990s, around mid 1990s. Yeah, a group of us, clarinetists. We have Gary Flack. He was the band director at ISKL, the International School Kuala Lumpur, and you have Lawrence Fong. Lawrence Fong is my colleague in the National Symphony Orchestra. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have Paneng Pin from Penang, and basically me. And we just got together, to play for fun,
Ah,
But yeah, play for fun and gave a few concerts. We played together for a few years. But I think we sort of stopped when Gary had to leave Malaysia. You know, he
Oh,
works in the international school in the international schools. So I think he had to go to Shanghai, and I think after that we sort of stopped. You know, but a few years ago, I think around 2016,
mm-hmm.
a few of us got back together. Lawrence, of course, myself, and a few new bloods, new clarinetists. You know, you have
Huh.
Keating and you have Kenny Ng. You know, we got together back in 2016, and you know, we started the whole thing.
Oh,
Yeah, uh, but we have a new member,
really?
a Sabahat. Yes.
Ah,
Yes. You know, when Kenny was doing his masters in Wales,
uh-huh.
uh, Alex graduated from Taiwan. Alex So, you know,
Continue.
yeah, he graduated from Taiwan, and basically, you know, he fitted right in. Yeah. So
Wow.
yes, so now there are five of us in the group. So it's a quartet, but there are five of us.
Ah, okay. So, any goal that the Clarion Clarinet Quartet would like to achieve in the future?
Well, we would love to actually do a Malaysian tour,
Ah,
uh, but you know, with COVID-19 and what's happening now, you know, I
yeah.
think it will be a little further in the future.
Oh, I hope to see it soon.
Yeah.
So, would you explain the benefits of performing in a chamber music?
Okay, benefits of performing in chamber music.
Yes.
Yeah, well, most importantly, you get to have fun.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, especially you know when you have like-minded people, all
Mm-hmm.
clarinetists. In our case, you know, it's all clarinetists. Just as string quartet, you can have all string players.
Yeah.
You have the same interests.
Mm-hmm.
So usually it's more fun. You know, in a mixed group is a little less fun. In a group of same family of instruments, it's usually a little crazier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So based on that, of course, fun, and
Mm-hmm.
you, especially for students, if you play a lot of chamber music, it's very good for learning how to communicate. You know,
Oh,
you
really?
have, yeah, because you will have a, you know, you will learn how to communicate verbally, of course. You know,
Uh-huh.
if let's just say if the four of you in a big orchestra, the decisions are usually made by the conductor, right?
Mm.
In a small group, if there are four of you, for example, and you think that a musical idea should go a certain way, but
Yeah.
another member of the group thinks that the idea should go a different way. Okay, in the verbal sense of communication, you will basically learn how to negotiate. You see,
True.
and then you,
Yeah.
yeah, and then you have non-verbal verbal communication when you are playing. How to pull your friends along with you. You know, if you suddenly you feel inspired while you're playing, suddenly you have a new idea. How are you going to do it? How are you going to pull them along with you? You
Mm.
know, all these you actually learn a lot from playing chamber music. So communication is the second thing, and then it's especially confident building. You know,
Mm.
when you have a large group, you know, this is a funny thing. You notice in the orchestra, the strings is the largest group, correct?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people playing the same line,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a way that conductors love to torture string players. If suddenly you know he asks, okay, second desk inside, you know, please play that line, for example, that four
Okay.
bar, and then you will know what fear is.
Okay.
You do a lot of chamber music. You're all on your own. You're playing. You know, those kind of occasion it would not be frightening to you. You do it all the
Mm, that's
time.
true.
Yeah, so it's confident building. Um, chamber music is also where you can learn a lot of unusual repertoire. Yeah,
Right.
a lot of strange music. It's an opportunity to explore different genre of music,
I
different
see.
kind of playing. Making different sounds. Because you are in a smaller group, there's less opportunity. For example, a composer or an arranger can always say, okay, here I want the color of the flute. Here I want the oboe to play. There I want brasses. It's very easy for them to change the color of the music. But if you are in a small group, you are limited to what you have. So if you want to change the tone, change the color, this is where you explore. It's a lot easier. Exploration of colors, exploration of tone, exploration of unusual repertoire. This is where you can really go crazy with the avant-garde music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's also a very good opportunity for composers or arrangers or orchestrators to work in chamber music setting. For example, how many young musicians, for example, if you are 15, 16, how many conductor will take you seriously and say, okay, we are going to try your arrangement today, because it takes a lot of manpower to run an orchestra. It takes a lot of effort to get an orchestra together. So chances of getting, let's just say, your symphony that you just wrote played is not very high, right? But if you have a small group of people, it's much easier to get, your music played. So this is a very good opportunity for young composers, young arranger, orchestrators to get your music played.
I see.
Yeah. So chamber music is a fantastic setting for all these things. Yeah.
So it is said that one of your passion is also flying.
Yeah.
So let's watch a video to learn more about it.
Okay.
So how long have you been flying, actually?
Okay, I've been flying for about 3 to 4 years. Flying was my childhood dream, actually. Before I wanted to be a musician, I wanted every little boy wants to be a pilot.
So why? I mean, you became a musician.
Yeah. Well, the deciding factor when I was young was that, first of all, you see this.
Okay.
The only way you can learn how to fly cheaply during that time was to become an airline pilot. And it's not possible during that time to have glasses to be an airline pilot. Today is very different. Today, if you have glasses, they will still accept you. So it was expensive, and my glasses doesn't help. But the expensive part is the main hindrance. And but a year ago, not a year ago, but 3 years ago, when I about to turn 50, I decided, yeah, I want to fly.
Oh.
Yeah, midlife crisis.
So it became like a hobby instead.
It became a passion. Yeah, I actually received my private pilot license a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congrats.
That video we saw earlier was me landing on runway 33 at Subang Airport.
Oh.
Yeah. in a Cessna 172.
Wow.
Small four-seater, yeah. But when I took up flying, I realized one thing. I realized one very important thing. What I have learned as a musician, as a music student, what I have done all these years, actually is very helpful to learning how to fly.
How so?
Right. You see, when we learn music, when we learn an instrument, we practice regularly. If you want to get good, you have to practice regularly.
Yeah.
Right? And you try to how shall I say, you try to consider all circumstances. For example, you try to practice as well as you can so that you won't make a mistake.
Yeah,
But
true.
all of us know mistakes happen. Flying is a bit like that. Flying takes discipline. It takes a lot of practice. In flying, you have to practice until it becomes automatic. Every maneuver needs to be automatic. You have to learn all your checklists, all your manuals. You have to put it up here. It has to be automatic because a lot of time, if you rely on your instinct, you will likely not survive the mistake.
Okay.
So all these things you have to practice. You have to learn. And being a musician, it helps. We realize that the more you practice correctly. That's the most important thing. The more you practice correctly. Of course, if you practice wrongly, you are learning wrong stuff, right? So the more you practice correctly, and the more regularly you practice, in a sense, do it often. Do a lot of it. The better you get at it, the faster you learn something. And it's the same with flying. I can tell you for a fact that for me it took about 2 years to finish. Because I'm doing it on a part-time basis. To get your private pilot license, you have 10 papers, 10 exam paper, ground papers.
Wow.
Yeah, followed by you have to have about minimum of 40 hours of flight with an instructor.
Okay.
Yeah, do all your manuals. Then only you will qualify to take the exam. So that is like exam for private pilot. Okay, for the commercial pilot, there are even more stuff to learn. Right? So there are a lot of things to learn, and I noticed a lot of my fellow pilot students who came in with me. A lot of them are not finished yet. They haven't finished. Reason is because they don't do it regularly enough. They don't do it often enough. They don't realize the need to do that. You see, for a musician, when you go into this, I have to set time. I have to, just like when you practice an instrument, you set the time. Okay, today I'm going to start practicing from, let's just say 8 to 12, right? Yeah. And it's exactly the same if you want to learn how to fly. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to fly once this week, and then I'm going to wait until next month to fly twice. You can't. You realize this as a musician, and you realize that it has to be regular. You have to set aside time for it, and I think that helps. That kind of discipline, when you start learning music, it actually translates to other skills actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So another question. It's not about flying.
Yeah. It's okay.
What advice would you give to someone who'd want to follow your path as a composer?
Okay, this is where it gets interesting. First of all, have a very strong foundation in theoretical subjects. Devour all kind of books on harmony. Devour books on counterpoint. read a lot of orchestration books. Okay, that's the first thing. It's only the first thing. Okay,
Oh, okay.
understand the theory behind it. For example, I would suggest for books. Okay, I would suggest maybe Walter Piston's Harmony, Walter Piston's Orchestration, Rimsky-Korsakov Orchestration. Rimsky-Korsakov actually wrote an orchestration book. You have Berlioz, who also wrote a book on orchestration. But for me, Walter Piston is good. And then Norman Delmar. Have you heard of Norman Delmar? He's a British conductor.
No.
He wrote a book called The Anatomy of the Orchestra. That is a brilliant book. But on the other end, you heard of the composer Gordon Jacob?
Oh, not really, too.
Yeah. Gordon Jacob wrote a very good book, especially for young upcoming composers and who wants to write for orchestras or different kind of ensembles, winds, brass, strings. Yeah, he wrote a very easy to digest orchestration book. I think it's Gordon Jacob. What is it called? It's Orchestra Technique. Yeah, it's not a very thick book. It's a very thin book, you know, with a lot of good points, and it's easy to digest for younger readers. That's where I would suggest you go in the beginning for the theoretical stuff.
I see.
Okay. Yeah, and then the next step will be the more practical aspect, putting your theoretical knowledge into practice. Okay. In fact, one of my first teacher, Jonathan Stock, he's now a professor at Cork University in Ireland. He was a friend. Yeah, he was a friend back there. He was in his early 20s when he taught me, and well, in a way, he taught me a lot of things. Because what happened is we decided to, you heard of the Bach chorales?
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of doing, Royal School theory paper for part harmony and stuff. Yeah, instead of doing that, what we did is we dug out the Bach chorale, lots of chorale. We took maybe the melody, we took maybe the bass line, or maybe part of the melody, part of the bass line, and we reharmonized everything.
Oh.
Yeah, we, instead of doing, past year's paper or whatever for the, for part harmony or whatever, we took the Bach chorale, we reharmonized everything, and after that you compare to what Bach actually might have done. It teaches you a lot. You will realize that a lot of modern arrangers, or especially those who do pop music or jazz, they are always talking about how in classical music we don't use sevens, we don't use nines, we don't use 11, we don't use 13. Have you heard that?
No, not really.
Not really. Yeah. The extended chords, basically extended triads. Yeah. But actually, if you look at Bach's harmonization to his chorale, you see a lot of that. Mozart, Bach used a lot of 11s, a lot of 13s, but they call it in a very, the way they use it is very different from in how we use it in a modern pop and jazz harmony. You heard of, for example, have you heard of a double appoggiatura, for example?
Oh, no.
Double appoggiatura? You know what's an appoggiatura, right?
No, sure. Sorry, no.
Basically, it's the suspension of a note before a resolution to the chord tone, right? So a double is two notes which are not in the chord tone resolving to chord tones, right? So actually, those are the way that some of these composers are actually, if you look at it, they're utilizing all this extended harmony. The only thing is they resolve them. A little different from the way we use them in the modern era. Yeah. Okay, Bach chorales, And one important thing he taught me is invaluable for a young composer and orchestrator. It's copying out parts. I know nowadays
Okay.
a lot of people don't need to copy parts, right? We go into the score, we put it into the score, and then we print out everything. The software
Uh,
extracts it for you. All right. Actually, that's a lost opportunity in my opinion, because when he made me copy out parts from full scores, it made me realize,
mhm.
you see, this is the range that the flutes are usually used at. This is the range that the oboe are usually used at, like the composers and the clarinets, the bassoons. How, for example, how Tchaikovsky used trumpets. You will learn a lot about that if you copy out the trumpet part from a Tchaikovsky score. So
I see.
in modern era of software, digital music, and everything, you lost this. In the past, you had to copy out scores. In fact, extraction of parts from a score did not exist until I think about 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's so much easier today for composers, but I think sometimes you have to make your students, young composers or students, copy out parts.
Uh,
You learn a
I
lot
see.
from that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Other than that, back to chamber music. Your opportunity to really explore what you can do, make mistakes, and in fact, that is where you should be making your mistakes. You do not want to make mistakes when you're in your composition or arrangement or orchestration. For example, if suddenly, let's just say the Berlin Phil decided to commission you to write a piece, correct?
Oh,
You don't want to
yeah.
make mistakes. So these early stages are where you can afford to make mistakes. Yeah. So write for your friends, write for smaller chamber group, write and explore it with your friends. This is the time you learn from your mistakes. Just like any other skill. When you compose, orchestrate, arrange, you
Mm-hmm.
actually learn from mistakes too. Not just what you don't just learn from when you're doing things correctly. You also learn from when you don't do it correctly. So yeah, another thumbs up for chamber music.
Okay. So next question will be, do you have a mission in your music career? Any goal to achieve in the future?
Musical goals. I think at my age, at 50 plus, I think the goal I want to achieve is actually to try to give back as much as possible to younger musicians, to students.
Okay.
I think that because a lot of people helped me when I was younger. When I started, I was basically self-taught, and all these people helped me. Jonathan Stott helped me. Basically, I have a lot of friends who helped me. I have a lot of friends who are willing to play the music I was writing.
I see.
Some of them are really strange, but they are willing to try it.
I
So
see.
yeah, I think it's as I age, and when I'm in my 50s now, and I think it's time to give back a little.
Okay.
Yeah, but I do have goals and aims other than in music.
Oh,
I actually harbor hope of maybe becoming a flight instructor too in the future. you
I
know,
think that's pretty
teach people
nice.
how to, yeah, teach people how to fly in music, and teach people how to fly in real life.
Yeah. Hey, that's really nice. So our last question is, JPO has
Yeah.
an outreach program which is to help out students in rural areas by providing music study opportunities to them. Do you have any suggestions to our JPO program that we can learn and improve?
I think the JPO outreach program is a very good program,
Mhm.
and I believe when it comes to teachers and it comes to instruments, and a lot of I believe you guys have a lot of very active students, and
Yeah.
and I believe it's a fantastic program. But I think I have a suggestion. It's also a fertile ground for young musicians
Okay.
of like them to, if they are interested, to write music.
Oh.
They could, you never know, you could find the next, well, I don't like to use that name too much. You could find the next Mozart or the next Brahms, amongst
Yeah.
them. Yeah. So I would suggest, since most of the ensembles are strings, right? If I'm not
Mm.
mistaken. Yeah. And there are smaller ensembles other than the main JPO, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is a good time, to allow them to explore writing music. Young
See.
people sometimes, it's quite fun if they realize that they can actually write what they want to play, rather than being asked to play something that somebody asked them to play.
I
Their
see.
teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah, get them to write what they want to play. It might help if you can get some of these books, or harmony books, orchestration.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Start with the more basic ones.
Okay.
Work your way up to the more exciting ones. But I think for some of these students, you might find a few who are really interested, and this is the best place for them to learn how to do this. Yeah.
Mm. See.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So now we'll move on to Q&A sessions.
Right.
So the first question is, are you a musician, composer, pilot? How do you keep on your passion? How do you work on your schedule well and also taking care of your family?
Right. Okay. Flying right now is still a hobby. It's still a hobby. It's
Okay.
not something I do to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
So I fly when I have the time, when I'm
Mm.
free. But of course, you have to make time. You need at least, even if you have if you're flying for an hour, you have to make at least 2 to 3 hours, because you have your flight planning beforehand. Before you can even start the engine, you will likely spend about 15-20 minutes checking up, looking at the plane, see whether it's flight worthy. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it does take time. Okay, but I think for flying, because I don't right now, it's not a career, so that don't take that much time.
I
Right.
see.
As for writing and playing, yeah, actually writing for me is not too difficult, because you don't have a rehearsal for a whole day. You don't have rehearsals for a whole day, right?
Mm.
So yeah, you can definitely find time to write. Just 2-3 hours, you can do a lot actually. But be aware, when you write, usually, if I give you an example. If I write 3 pages of stuff that night, the next day I will throw
Uh,
away 2.
oh,
Yeah.
wow.
The most important thing about writing music, whether orchestrating, arranging, or composing, the most important thing
Uh-huh.
is not really the writing. The most important thing is the editing. What you get rid of.
Okay.
Cut out the chase.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you just throw that away. It's a bit like harvesting, when you harvest rice, most of it is thrown. Just one time.
I see. Okay. So next question. Do you need to have inspiration before you start arranging and orchestrating? If so,
Okay.
how do you go about finding this inspiration, or does it just come naturally?
Okay, this is also an interesting question that get asked a lot. You know,
Ah.
yeah. When you tell people you write music, you will get
Mm,
this question quite. Um, okay, one thing I will tell you: if you wait for inspiration to strike, you will never write.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
So most of the time, if you want to write something, even if whether you are commissioned or whether you're writing for yourself, you know, your pet project, what you do is you set again. You see how important it is to set aside a certain time. You want to set aside a certain time to practice. You want to set aside a
Mm,
certain time for rehearsals. You set a certain time for writing music too. Of course, you set a certain time for flying. That's important. you know, you set up with all these goals in mind. You must set a certain time for writing. So let's just say you set out 3 hours to write. You sit down and write. Whatever comes out, comes out.
mm,
It might be inspired. It might be pure drudge. It comes
okay.
out. If it's pure drudge, your editing tomorrow could be everything throw away. I always leave my editing to the next day. Everything sounds
Oh,
good on the same day that you actually wrote it.
uh-huh.
You know, everything you write sounds good on the day that you write it. The next
I
day when you
see.
look back, you might go like, no.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So if it's no good, the next day you will throw out most of it. If it's good, you might be able to get 50, 60% of it. The rest you edit out, you know. So it all depends. But whatever you do, if you wait for inspiration, it will never happen. So
That's
sit
true.
yourself down, write. Whatever comes out, comes out. If it's not good,
Mm-hmm.
throw it away. If it's good, keep what you think is good.
I see. So, next question. How do you keep your enthusiasm at work?
Hmm. This is uh, this is an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, yes, you do feel like you're burning the candle on both ends. Sometimes you feel like I'm so tired. You know, especially when you're playing music you don't like. You know, as a professional musician, for us, sometimes we are playing music that we don't like. Not every piece of music that you get to play are music that you like, and sometimes it can get very tiring. That is why, for me, I would tell every students or even my colleagues sometimes have interest, have other things that you love equally passionately
Mm-hmm.
outside of music. This is what makes you a better musician. Actually,
Okay.
you know, your passion outside of music actually makes you a better musician. It's a bit like what one of my teacher actually taught me. You know, when I was younger, I don't like Brahms. Now I love
Okay.
Brahms. When I was younger, I don't like Brahms. I couldn't understand Brahms. He feels so
Uh-huh.
stodgy. But what one of my teacher told me is to play Brahms, you got to live a little. You got to have lived life. You got to have loved and lost. You got to have experienced grief. You know, then you understand Brahms. And of course, for most of us, as we get older, we actually get to experience life more. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the reasons I think why, as musicians get older, they start to understand what Brahms writes.
I
You
see.
know, when you are a teenager, you go like, this don't sound very interesting. As you get older, then you start to understand. So I think most important thing of how not to get burnout is to have interest outside of music. It will make you a better musician, trust
I see. So, next question. Hi, Raymond. Knowing you for so many years, I know one of your hobbies is also flying model plane. Did you do it because you didn't have the chance then to try the real thing? And did your hobby of flying the model plane helps you in flying the actual airplane?
me. Okay. Yeah, I do fly a remote control aircraft. Actually, I don't only fly them, I build them myself.
Okay.
Yes, and yeah, it actually stems from my interest in aviation since I was young. And yes, of course, it was a substitute for not being able to fly the real thing. But at the same time, it has its own reward. Yeah, and it does help in learning how to fly the real thing. And especially, one of the papers that you have to pass before you can take your exam is, for example, uh, one of the principles of flight, for example, or
Okay.
aircraft general knowledge. All these two papers, for example, is quite easy for somebody who actually build their own model planes and who actually flies them. Because why? Our model planes, no doubt, smaller, flies on the same principle. Yeah, it's the same physics. Yeah.
I see. So, next question. What is the common ground in between clarinet orchestration and flying?
Okay. There's no real common ground. It's all just the things that I'm interested in. Basically, what I want to say is, uh, be excited with life. Be open to new experiences. Do all the things that you want to do. I know sometimes as musicians and music students, we can be very narrow in our focus. We can be so focused. Okay, I want to play this instrument well. I want to learn how to do this well. But I think we need to open our mind a little bit to be a really good musician. And especially if you want to be a composer or an arranger or an orchestrator, you have to open your mind, read more, travel more, have more hobbies, be really excited with life. That really will help you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, next question. May I know how many type in keys of clarinets are there and which are the more common one? Why is it only clarinet in B flat and A are popular? I too am
Okay.
curious.
Okay. Now, first of all, in the past, okay, this is a long story. In the
Okay.
past, the clarinet basically don't really have many keys. It's a
Oh,
bit like the recorder. Imagine the recorder.
yeah.
Yeah, imagine the recorder. The thing that is a recorder. Imagine a recorder-like instrument, but with a single reed and mouthpiece. That's basically
Mm-hmm.
what the ancestor of the clarinet is. It's called a schwam. It's basically a shepherd pipe. It has
Ah,
holes, just holes like recorder, and it can only play in a very narrow register. It's maybe about an octave and a half, just like the recorder. The recorder is around 2 octaves. Yeah. And what happened is, well, this is a little bit of history. Christoph Danner added a register key onto the instrument,
uh-huh.
which allows the schwam to reach the next group of harmonics. So now we have an instrument that can actually change register, go up higher.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, we have a little problem because the clarinet is actually a cylindrical pipe. Basically it means it's the same diameter of tube
Mm-hmm.
from beginning to the end. Well, the bell doesn't count.
Yeah.
Same diameter. And what happened is it creates an instrument that jumps uneven partial of harmonics. So, for example, the recorder, the saxophone, for example, the flute.
Yeah.
Generally, if this is a fingering for. Can you see my hand? If this
Mm-hmm.
is a fingering for G, for example,
Ah,
right? On the next register, when they overblow into the next harmonics, this is also G,
yeah.
correct? Yeah. On the clarinet is a different animal altogether. If this is a G, no, if this is a C, we are talking clarinet now. This is a C on the clarinet. Okay. On the next register, this is no longer a C.
Yeah.
This is now a G.
G.
Because why? It jumped the C. The next harmonic up from the C is actually an octave up, which is should be a C, but it jumped the C and it went on to the next harmonic, which is the G.
G. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you follow me?
Yeah.
So what happened is now we have notes missing. For example, if this is F,
Mm-hmm.
and if I jump the harmonic, now this is a C.
C.
Yeah, F up is an F plus the next harmonic, which is a fifth up, is a C. So we go from an F to a C. So what happened to the notes in between? For example, if we play F, G from the low register, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, after G, we are going on to the next register. Of course, on the clarinet is a B, but what happened to the note between G and B? Now, this is when we started adding keys. So we add key onto the neck of the clarinet, the throat of the clarinet, we call it. So we have G sharp, A, B flat before we reach the next harmonic. So we have throat keys. Throat keys are something that you will never see on the flute, you will never see on the oboe, you will never see on the saxophone, on the clarinet. Yeah, because we need to breach that harmonic, that gap. So those are the first few keys. You have the register key and the throat keys. Next, the holes for the low C is very low. So we add an extra key. But you know how they actually add keys back then? You know, the clarinet player back in the classical period, it's not like today. There is no such thing as a Boehm system clarinet or an Euler system clarinet, the German system. You know, there's no such thing. The musician then will decide, okay, I need this key, so I go to a woodwind maker. Can you add this extra hole and a key for me? Yes, that's how they do it. So each town have their own woodwind technician, basically, wind maker, and they just keep on adding keys. And there's no system until about 150, 160 years ago. First, you have Auguste Buffet. Have you heard of the Buffet clarinet?
Yeah.
Auguste Buffet is the man who decided to incorporate. You heard of the Boehm system, right?
Sort of.
The flute key system is called the Boehm system.
Oh.
Okay. The Boehm system is first put on flutes, actually. And Auguste Buffet decided to incorporate some of the design ideas onto his clarinet. That's how the French Auguste Buffet designed the clarinet system, and that's how the Boehm clarinet came into existence.
Okay.
So now we have a standardized key system. The Germans are a little different. Okay, I think I'm going too much into detail. So basically, today in the modern world, for fingering system, we have the Germans, and then we have the French. And now, why we have B flat and A? Actually, in the past, there are a lot of clarinets. Back in the days of Mozart, did you know that the Mozart clarinet concerto, which is played on the A clarinet today, was originally written for the basset horn in G.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he wrote about, because the manuscript is lost, but what we found was a small excerpt of what he wrote, and it was written for the basset horn in G.
Ooh,
yeah, so that time, clarinets come in a lot of different keys, a lot of different keyworks, a lot of different attachments. Just like in the past, the horns and brass have all kind of F crooks, C crooks, B flat, E flat crooks. Same with the clarinet, there were lots, and it did not disappear. Now, this is why there's B flat. Yeah, I'm getting to that. It did not disappear until the clarinet could play chromatically, and that did not happen until the Boehm system and the German system came into maturity. So about 150, 160 years ago, the clarinet suddenly, with all this new key system, can play chromatically.
Oh. No
Yeah.
wonder.
So a lot of these clarinets, in other keys, become redundant, and we don't really use them anymore. And why we have a B flat and A? Because you see, Now, for flute players, saxophone players, this is the same note, an octave up, correct?
Yeah.
For clarinet players, this is not the same note. And then the next register is a totally different set of fingering altogether. So the fingering for the clarinet changes every register.
Yeah.
And what happened is there are complexities involved in playing music that has a lot of sharps or a lot of flats. So this is where the A and B flat come into play. We got rid of all the other clarinet. We can play most things chromatically, but we still have problem with difficult fingering. Yeah, and we ended up realizing that with the B flat, we can play all of the flat keys, and with the A, we can play all of the sharp keys. And that's how the B flat and the A become standard in the orchestra. But today there's a renaissance of boutique clarinets. Now the C clarinets are coming back into fashion. I have a C clarinet. Yeah. You know, they are amazing. They are like a cross between the E flat clarinets and the B flat clarinet.
I see.
Yeah. But I think we don't go any further than that on the clarity.
Okay. So what is your advice to young people regarding to learning attitude?
Learning attitude.
Yes.
I think the most important thing is have an open mind.
Okay.
Have an open mind. You know, I have heard some people say, "Oh, this person." You know, I have heard some students say, "This person is not a very good teacher," or "This person is a great teacher." Yes, but actually, did you know that even if this person is not a good teacher, or you don't like, for example, if you watch a soloist play and you don't like his sound, for example, you still learn something. You learn what you don't like.
Yeah.
You learn what you're not to do.
Pretty much.
You know? Yeah, have an open mind. You can still learn, even from people you do not agree with. Yeah. In fact, one of the when I was a young student, because in my case during that time we don't have a regular teacher in Malaysia at that point, and I actually learned from a lot of teachers. All of them are very good teachers, but sometimes what they say contradict each other.
Okay.
So have an open mind. Try everything. If it doesn't suit you, then maybe you try something else. But make sure you give it a good try. Work at it. Most of the time they might contradict each other. Different schools of playing, maybe, right? They might contradict each other, but you will still learn something.
I see. Okay. So, next question. I'm just curious. Do you know why the fingering for saxophone is similar to flute instead of clarinet, since they are both single reed instruments?
Okay, this has something to do with acoustic and basically physics. Okay, basically the clarinet is, because it's a cylindrical ball. We call it a cylindrical ball. That means it's the tube actually has the same diameter from top to the bottom. Like I said just now, it overblows at a 12th, the odd number harmonics instead of the even number harmonics. Okay, that is because of that characteristic of the cylindrical ball. You will notice the saxophone is actually very different from the clarinet. The saxophone is conical. Conical means the beginning of the ball is very small. For example, if you look at the saxophone's neck, it's maybe about that wide, right, in diameter. But when you get to the bell and you get to the bottom tube where the last few notes are, the ball is almost this size.
Yeah.
Now, the characteristic of a conical ball is also interesting because the conical ball actually overblows on the even harmonics, the even partials. So they are more like the flutes and the oboe and the recorder. Now you will ask me, the flute look like it's the same diameter throughout, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why doesn't it why doesn't it overblows on the the odd partials and only overblow on the even partial? That is not true. The flute can actually overblow on the odd partial too.
Oh,
Get a
okay.
flute player to demonstrate that to you. Yeah, but why the flute character is like that is also partially to do with the fact that it is a stop type.
Okay.
Okay, it's a lot to do with the physics of the science of vibrations and sounds.
I
Yeah,
see.
so a lot of it is the characteristic of the ball of the instrument, the
Oh,
tube that makes up the instrument. Yeah.
okay. So this is the last question. Hi,
Right.
what is your opinion on using the cane reed and the artificial one?
Okay. Right. My opinion, the artificial reed, I guess you're talking more about along the line of the new Leger reeds, and I think Silverstein also coming up with their own plastic reeds. Yeah, there are plastic reeds for clarinets and other
Mm-hmm.
reeds. But for single reed instrument, I think it's maturing. The technology is maturing. In fact, let me tell you a little secret. On my
Okay.
bass clarinet, I use a Leger signature, European cut.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I'm using a plastic reed on my bass clarinet most of the time.
Oh.
Of course, sometimes I still use cane, but in a situation where the temperature can be very variable,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I prefer the plastic reed because the plastic reed stays the same. Cane reed changes with temperature, changes with
Yeah.
humidity. Yeah, but surprisingly, on the smaller clarinet, I
Uh-huh.
still prefer the cane reed. On the bigger clarinets, on the saxophone, the plastic reed actually, to me, has matured quite a lot. They are good enough to even play for concerts. But for the B flat and the E flat, to me, I still prefer cane. There's still more control on cane. But of course, there are also clarinetists around the world who use plastic reed who says when you're using plastic reed, sometimes it depends on the mouthpiece you're using. Certain mouthpiece works very well with plastic reed, certain mouthpiece don't.
Okay.
Yeah. So for students, it's very difficult to say. It depends on the mouthpiece you're using. You
Mm-hmm.
know, of course, if you have lots of money, you can try out a lot of different mouthpieces with a lot of different different artificial reeds. Yeah. But I would say it's coming along. I think one day, definitely, we will be playing with plastic reed. Most of us. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, actually, you'll be surprised how many professional clarinetists around the world are actually using plastic reed now. Do you
Oh,
know that? Yeah. Do you know that? Berlin Philharmonic clarinetists, most of them are using plastic reeds.
no, not really. because like because I heard most professionals would use cane reeds.
Oh, we do, but if a new technology comes, I can tell you this: when technology in wind instruments,
Mm-hmm.
usually clarinetists are very practical people. If it works, they will use it.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course, like I said, the caveat is you must have a mouthpiece that works with it,
Yeah.
and you'll be surprised. You would think that plastic reed are all the same, right?
Yeah. Sort
No,
of.
they are not. No, they are
Oh,
not. Yeah,
okay.
when I take plastic reed for my bass clarinet, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I will go to the person who actually sells it. I go there and I tell them, okay, I want to try as many reed. For example, I use on the bass clarinet I use 3.5,
Huh.
but I will tell them, I will tell them, okay, bring out all the Leger signature you have. Okay, I want from let's just say strength 3.25 all the way up to 3.75.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then I will ask for a lot of them, maybe and whatever they have. If they have 4, I want to try all 4. If they have 8, I want to try all 8.
Okay.
Okay, and you'll be surprised how different each one of them can be. It's just like cane; they can be very different. The only difference is if you find one that is suitable for you,
Mm-hmm.
the character of the reed would not change much for at least 6 months. Yeah,
Okay.
but please be aware, even artificial reed wears out.
In like about 6 months.
For about 6 months if you play it regularly. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So just like cane, for me, I will buy a few of them. I will choose from the selection. I will choose a few. I keep them, and then I rotate them just like cane. Yeah, that's a tip for clarinet players. If
Mm-hmm.
you play the clarinet, don't just use one reed.
Yeah.
If you use one reed, it dies very fast. Yeah, rotate
Yes.
them. If you rotate them, they last a long time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's it for tonight. Thank you again, Mr. Raymond, for being our
Thank
speaker
you.
for tonight. So we'd also like to thank everyone for joining in tonight's program as well. So if you want to watch any previous broadcasts, please go to Jesselton Philharmonic Orchestra YouTube channel and don't forget to like and subscribe. Also follow our JPO Facebook page. Now, tomorrow night we will have a Sabah local artist, Yi Tianrong, joining with us. Okay. So now let us pray for tonight's program. Please pray in your own beliefs in regarding the COVID-19. So, our Father in heaven, take away the fear, anxiety, and feelings of isolation from people receiving treatment or under quarantine. Give them a sense of purpose in pursuing health and protecting others from exposure to the disease. Protect their families and friends and bring peace to all who love there. Amen. Okay, once again, thank you, Mr. Raymond.
Thank you, Joanne.
I truly learned a lot from you, and I hope that the audience as well has learned
I hope so.
something.
I hope it's useful.
It's very useful to me. Okay, so thank you, everyone. Goodbye and good night.